What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be going over my Johnny Cage deck. This deck was a blast. One of the coolest, best defensive, best big brain play decks that I've ever made. If you like this deck profile, make sure you check out the matches that it played in over on the end of the line playlist here on the YouTube channel. And if you want to, check us out on twitch.tv/TCGUniversity every Tuesday as we record them live for your viewing pleasure. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the profile. All right, so Johnny Cage. If you've not seen one of my deck profiles, basically the way that I do these profiles is I want to take and give you an elevator pitch of how the deck works, and then as opposed to just reading out what the character does. Obviously, he builds in foundations and he gives plus or minus damage, but the real elevator pitch of this deck is I want to find as many useful resources as I can possibly fit inside of a deck for these pseudo-specific situations, and then every time I'm going to reduce your damage and then build in one by taking one at a time. The goal is to be able to build in 29 foundations, be at 1 vitality, and then kill you because of all the critical mass that I've built up inside of a staging area. So there's Johnny Cage in a nutshell. So we're playing under the order symbol, and the main reason we're playing under order because I think it has the coolest foundations, as well as it has access to New Xiong style. New Xiong style is essentially an aggressive Johnny Cage build. Destroy a foundation, add a different one into my staging area. It comes in ready as opposed to Johnny's that comes in committed. As well as it's my main kill card just because it has powerful 4. It's one of the only keyword uses that I have inside of the deck that is of note. And so being able to just pop off with New Xiong style is very much worth it. Up next, I'm playing 3 Flashy Shadow Kick. It's basically your diet New Xiong style. It is just if the top card of my discard pile is a foundation, I get to just build it in. And so if there's any ways for me to change the top card of my discard pile with a card like Sense of Morals or something along those lines. Sense of Morals isn't actually in my deck, but it's just the easiest example I can think of. Any sort of checking or milling or whatevering. Johnny Flashy Shadow Kick gets to let me just build that in for free, and it does come in ready, so that is important. It's just another aggressive card on the attack. Up next, I've got Triple Forbidden Moonset. I get foundations and you don't. Forbidden Moonset's a really important tool to have under any 5-hander with these 3 symbols, just because it actually sets them back a foundation on a turn. Yeah, there's some crazy, silly loops that you can do with this card, but that's not necessarily what the point of the deck. The point of the deck is I want to just set you back 1, and if I happen to hit you for 6 or even on the half block 3, that's fine. I just want to extend the game out as long as I can, because eventually Johnny Cage will just kill you. Next, we're playing Triple Hyper Bomb. This card is a little suboptimal. If I had them, I probably would have traded them out with Stakeouts. But this card says that if it's not blocked, I draw a card. It gets a little bigger, and I'm going to be taking Vitality every time that my opponent plays an attack, hopefully, because I want to be able to build that foundation, and that foundation is more important than the Vitality that was gained, or was lost, excuse me. And so being able to Hyper Bomb out and commit my foundations in order to pop some stuff is actually important. Up next, we're playing Triple Speedball. This card killed people way more than it had any right to, honestly. My opponent's block mod gets plus X. X equals the highest printed difficulty of a foundation in my staging area. I have 4 5-diff foundations inside of my deck, and so having it essentially be a 5 mid, or excuse me, an 8 mid for 8 in Johnny Cage is very good on a 3 difficulty attack. It's just killing people. And then my last attack is Double Nouveau Soleil. This card is just reversal. It readies up 2 cards so that I can Johnny Cage and get a little more damage reduction on them, as well as if it's not completely blocked, I commit my opponent's character, which ends their turn, which means that I get another turn. Once again, I just want to extend the game out as long as I can, and so if I turn off the coolest part of your deck, which is your character, then the more the merrier. Under the assets, I wanted to just toss in a couple of assets in order to make the assets and actions in order to get some real technical stuff. I'm playing 1 Kal Yuga. This card is not in here to lift anything up. Because I'm Johnny Cage, there's plenty of times that on my turn 2, if you're playing aggressively, I can actually build 11 foundations, build in a deadlock on your turn. You haven't if you've just poked me with a bunch of little baby attacks and I've reduced them all down to 1, I'm gonna build up my staging area. And so the lift and attack never happens ever. This is just a little more of a deterrent to make you not debuild me. Johnny Cage likes his foundations. Obviously, he's Johnny Cage. He's building them in every time he gets smacked. I don't want those foundations to go to waste. I paid vitality for those. I don't want them stolen from me. And so, just being able to say, hey, actually, since I lost one, you're going to lose one too, is just good enough to make sure that this stays inside of the deck. In addition to that, we're playing 4 Omega Shield and Omega Sword and Elk Shield. This card just says after I block an attack, I take 1 damage, which is exactly what Johnny Cage wants to do. You do have to be careful because one of your best blocks in the game, a 1-mid block. There were plenty of matches that I would go to 1, and now this card is dead in my hand. Its entire job is to just make sure that I take 1 vitality, and it was going to do its job a little too well, I would say. And so make sure you utilize your vitality. But this card just says auto build in 1 and negate an attack essentially. In addition to that, we're going to play 4 My Resolve Will Never Falter. This card came in clutch. I'm not sure it's needed as a 4-of, but as a 5-hander, maybe it was super good. My opponent decides to... So, like, my opponent plays a Downward Spiral, right? They decide to play an Enhance that makes me discard a card. Well, I'll discard whatever it's not My Resolve. I'll then play My Resolve Will Never Falter, and then I will... say that their attack can't gain any bonuses. I can still give it damage reductions off of Johnny Cage, so I can commit a 3, 4, 5 and then reduce it even more and say that it doesn't matter how big it's going to be. I'm going to make it do exactly that 1 damage and I'll be fine. Or I reduce my opponent's attack and then it hits me. I build in my foundation, respond, and then I'll commit 2 of theirs. Very, very good. Very, very good. Okay, up next, I'm going to talk about the off-symboled card. So if you look at Johnny Cage actually doesn't say that you build in a foundation you could normally play. He just says build in a foundation. And so you could build in things that are off-symboled, like the first card that we're going to talk about is a card that has Earth but not the other 2 symbols. Or you can build in a card that doesn't have any of his symbols, which is a little risky because of the fact that Johnny Cage can't play those cards out of his hand, which means I'm taking my 5-hander and I'm making him even worse if he hits a bit of a bad draw. So as long as you can figure out how to keep Johnny Cage consistent, he'll work for you. So the best foundation in my entire deck is actually Massive Size, because of the fact that it says with Johnny Cage commit for +5 speed, +5 damage or -5 damage on my opponent's decks. It's incredible. As well as it has its own enhanced commit. This deck gets +5 damage because of my hand size. Really, really strong. It is enough to just win out the game for sure. I want to pull these in. This was originally in here just as a 2-of, but every time that I played this card, I was going to kill you with it. This card says that I can see a singular attack and sometimes pump it up by 5, 10, 15 damage, depending on how many master sizes or how I can cycle and reuse them. Very good stuff. I'll show you a small loop here just 1 second. Another off-symbol card, we got a Sun's Love. This one doesn't match any symbols. This just makes me a 6-hander. If my opponent is playing slow enough, there are lots of times that I felt like I couldn't build this in. There's a lot of good decision-making I have to make with a Johnny Cage deck. I felt like I couldn't build this in because my opponent was being a little too aggressive. But if they're playing slow enough that I get to first form and just keep building and keep finding stuff, a Sun's Love's really, really good in order to push out that the next tempo. 1 Wandering Pirate just lets me reuse another commit cost, as well as it readies out foundations on my turn, so I can feel like I can build out a little bit more, and then use Johnny Cage's stuff in order to reuse a +5 or -5 damage. Playing 1 Venomous. Venomous is incredibly strong, especially because this card's playable while committed. So I'll get hit with Johnny Cage, build it in, they try and draw a card, I'll cancel it, they'll try and draw, they'll hit me again, I'll build it back in, they'll draw another card, I'll cancel it, and I just get to sit here and pop it over and over and over again. It is a little suboptimal to keep bringing in Venomous. You really need to time out when you can do it, because we are trading a life as a resource for a foundation as a resource, and then instantly getting rid of that resource. But as long as the Venomous is worth it, just don't go all willy-nilly. They probably got some better stuff to negate it with. We've got 1 Energy Absorption. This card is the card that made me think about playing this deck under Earth. Response: after you take damage from an unblocked attack, gain 1 Vitality, only playable if your hand size is 5 or less. So with this plus Massive Size, you can just say, oh, I'll give this 6 damage attack -5 damage. It'll do 1 to me. If I've got 3 or 4 energy absorptions, I'm actually gaining life on my opponent's attacks and building 1 in. The thing is as an order deck, though, I was afraid to play too many off-symboled cards and just wanted to play this at a 1-of. I would actually probably cut some of these other 1-offs to play more of this card. It was so useful. So those were all my off-symbol cards. Now onto the main cards of the deck. I wanted to play as many differing cards as possible. So the only 4 of a foundation in my entire deck is actually Secret Stash. And the reason I wanted to play this deck under order to begin with, not just as a new song style, but Enhance Flip, search my deck for up to 2 foundations and add them to my discard pile. A lot of people play Johnny Cage and they just off-symbol the Secret Stashes. Well, I thought, why would I off-symbol the Secret Stashes when I can off-symbol the Secret Stashes targets? And so just being able to, on turn 2, build 2 of these says that I just get to discard pretty much half of all of my off-symbol cards into my discard pile, and now I'll never have to draw them. And every time I get smacked, I get to add my cool cards back in. Very, very good. Very, very strong. Up next, I want to talk about the consistency of my deck. As a 5-hander, drawing cards is incredibly difficult. Seeing kill turns is difficult, and so playing 3 passing torch after I get smacked, add in passing torch on my next turn, just draw an additional card. It says this is essentially a Sun's Love. Really, really solid. As well as triple Voice of Reasons. Sometimes you get stuck with those off-symbol cards in your hand. You got to get rid of them. And so we'll both discard a card, draw a card. I'll discard this card that I wasn't even allowed to play on my symbol. I'll discard a Sun's Love and then draw a fresh card. Oh, it has my symbol. I can play it again. It feels like a gamble card, but it's actually strategic inside of Johnny Cage. Up next, we're on to the I Gotta Kill Ya cards, and the easiest I Gotta Kill Ya card is Gotta Thunder. This card just says I get to destroy a foundation to re-ready something. So this does 2 things inside of our deck. Either I destroy a foundation that I've already used. I'll destroy a Secret Stash and it'll go into my discard pile. I'll get smacked and I'll add my Secret Stash back in. Or God of Thunder is really good at I will check poorly on Flashy Shadow Kick. We'll toss this guy back up. I'll destroy one of the committed foundations that I did, and then Flashy Shadow Kick will build it back in. Look, I didn't check bad. I checked a 4 instead of a 5. Or getting to reuse your massive sizes. This says it's plus 10 damage as opposed to plus 5 damage. It's very, very strong, as well as it's a 3 diff, so I mean minus 3 is still pretty good with Johnny Cage. Oh, next we're playing triple Ridding the World of Outsiders. I gotta make sure that my attacks hit, dude. And so a lot of people play Johnny Cage as a throw deck, and I don't have that luxury playing under the order symbol. And so just enhance, give my thing +2/+2 is just good enough, especially when I'm gonna give something plus 10 damage. Getting that extra speed says the damage actually matters. Oh, next we're playing 1 Warrior Descendant. This is the main way that I kill people. And let's talk about the strategies that we had here. So I was playing Nu Xiang style and massive size, right? And so a real easy play that we could do with, and I'll put Warrior Descendant here in the middle, is I would enhance on Johnny Cage and I would commit the massive size for plus 5 damage. And then from there I would destroy Warrior Descendant to give it another 5 damage. And then I would use Nu Xiang style to destroy any foundation. We'll say Warrior Descendant because it's here, to add this card back in. And then I would use Massive Size, committing it with its effect for another 5 damage. Hey, look at this 5 high for 20 I've done by just looping 2 cards. Easy peasy. And so if there's any way to just like grind out, and we could do the exact same sort of play for minus 10 damage off of commit with Johnny Cage for minus 5, and then Warrior Descendant destroy this for minus 5. Really, really strong stuff. Onto the blocks, because blocking is super important, because you want a half block, you want a partial block, you want to use $500 sunglasses to block, and say that you only take 1 damage. This is just the high block version of the Omega Sword, and so this card says after I block with it, I only take 1. Super relevant in a character. Essentially, it says minus 1,000,000 damage, and then get the trigger off of Johnny Cage. We're playing triple Cool and Focused. It's got 2 jobs. It mills us as well as it makes sure that I can half block a high or a low and take my stats. Or if in a panic, I can block the mid block and just guarantee I don't take the damage. Lets me save a Johnny Cage enhance. We're playing double Betrayed by the Family. This card works really, really well with Johnny Cage because it's just a free enhance of plus damage. Maybe I just got an easy poke, right? They got no cards in their hand. I've only drew 1 attack. I got to make sure that I could find my defense. So I'll play the Betrayal by the Family. I'll commit it and give my attack +2. At the start of their turn, it'll already back up. And so here's another -2 that I can play on their turn. Really, really strong. As well as if they decide to reduce my damage of my attack, because Johnny Cage can sometimes give a bunch, I can take it and just commit both of these, and then commit the best cool cards in their staging area. Best defensive cards. Maybe that's enough to push through a kill. The next card is 3 Manifestation. This card is a double-edged sword. So basically what this card says is I can commit it with Johnny Cage's ability to make them commit a foundation, but that does say only -1 damage. It's really, really interesting, the interactions with Manifestation. I think if this is a 2, it would actually be insane in Johnny Cage, but the fact that it's a 1 says that I have to pick a 1 diff foundation to use my once per enhanced step minus damage on, and that is the main way that I'm trying to deal with threats, is just reduce the damage, take it on the chin, and then build in my cool thing. This card is good, but it's not stellarly to abuse. We can't quite abuse it. It could easily just be a 2 of in the deck. Next, we're playing a double Agents Wise. If we were playing with sideboards, I would definitely kick this card up. It also depends on what your local scene looks like. If your locals are playing a ton of Tagoro Brothers, you got to play this card at a bunch of, making sure that you get to use your cool foundations, being able to make sure that you get to use your Warrior Descendant, make sure you get to use your Ageless and Wise, or not Ageless and Wise, passing the torch and so on and so forth. Very, very important to keep on board. On to just the last section of the deck is just called a bunch of one-ofs, because that's just really what they are. We can talk about defense, but Retreated Arctica, just destroy before the damage step, reduce it to 0. I wish I reduced it to 1 so I could take my 1 damage and then build it back in committed and ready it back up with God of Thunder, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. In addition to that, we're also playing Refusing to Let Go as a really good one of. Enhance Commit. This attack gets put it to print at -2, and so a really easy play to do is just Refusing to Let Go and then use Johnny Cage on a massive size, and now they've got printed -7. That attack's not doing damage to you. We're playing 1 Living Pendulum. If they affect the speed stat at all on anything, cancel it. As well as, after I lose vitality due to my opponent's effects, they're going to lose too. This card would come in really clutch in the Katana matchup inside of this Campus Championship. We're playing 1 Marrying Age. After my opponent readies one of their foundations, which happens a ton in this game, I get to take and ready one of my own, whether it be Refusing to Let Go or a massive size. And if I can't ready one, I get to take any card that I want that I could normally play, and from my hand to my staging area. And so I just get to kind of free build. And that it does include the cards that are off-symboled, because I could normally play them. That doesn't include the cards that are super off-symboled, like a Sun's Love or Wandering Pirate. I can't play those cards at all, and so I could not add them in with Marrying Age. Just be careful with the ruling on that one. I'm playing 1 Aswell's Little Doll. Canceling a response is really good. My opponent plays Revoke in order to stop me from killing them, or to stop them from killing me, to make sure that they kill me. Either way, this card stops Revoke, and it's just good enough in a clutch situation. We're playing 1 from Mother Russia. Being able to destroy, Enhance Destroy, return its attack speed to printed, playable while committed is good enough. So I'll take my lick, I'll add in the Mother Russia. I need to block something else, and so I'll put it back to printed speed. I'll take my lick, I'll add it back in. This card is good enough to keep reusing over and over again, kind of like Venomous, just because being able to make sure that you block and take significantly less damage is good. Play 1 Last of Its Kind. It just says I'll lose 2 vitality to make sure that you don't smack me for a million. Lose 2 is just good enough in order to feel, it doesn't feel great, but it feels fine. As well as, once I'm at desperation or games do go very long, deadlock, all of my attacks get a little extra damage. Might be the thing that closes out the game. And then the last card is Tijuana Groceries. I saved this card for last because this is the most staple card in Johnny Cage. This says -3 damage on every attack guaranteed. I'll remove 2 foundations that I don't necessarily need inside of my discard pile, and ready back up my Tijuana Groceries, and then use Johnny Cage to commit it on this attack, and then ready it back up, and they play another one, and another -3, and then ready it back up. I feel like I don't ever lose anything. This is essentially God of Thunder. People off-symbol this card, so why not main symbol it? There's a ton of ordered main symbol or off-symbol cards that other Johnny Cage decks play that I just get the luxury of just playing them. All right, thank you very much for watching this deck profile. If you like the profile, make sure you check out the rest of the profiles here on the channel, as well as the matches that they all played in the End of the Line Campus Championship playlist. If you want to support us, go out to patreon.com/TCG University, sub at the $1 level, and you'll get access to our Patreon, or access to our Discord, excuse me, where we can talk about Johnny Cage all day long. There's so many cool cards that you can just splash in Johnny Cage. And if you've got a cool Johnny Cage deck, share it out there. I'd love to take a look at it and compare lists, you know? So if you, from all of us here at TCG University, thank you very much for watching the video, and stay learned.